There was a point in my life last year that I actually chose to be homeless, and that's so I could, afford food and other necessities instead of having a place to starve.
Oftentimes, shelters are not safe or comfortable spaces for people.
So I almost took my own life last year, late October, and I almost went through with it, but I thought I'm gonna try one more time. I called the ambulance.
Outside the Frame is an organization that aims to help youth experiencing homelessness find direction and community through creative output. Our panel today is made up of individuals who know firsthand what it's like to be homeless, living on the streets of Portland during their youth, before becoming a part of Outside the Frame. Today they share with us their stories and some of their videos and music that they have created while with this program. Welcome to Kids Speak Out, Oregon. I'm Barbara Harrison. People generally think of homeless being older adults, but there is an invisible, unsheltered population of thousands of youth that need to be recognized. Let's meet our panel of young people who have come to talk about that. We have a bunch of young Oregonians who are here with us. Why don't we start with you, Joey?
Yeah.
Tell us who you are.
Hi.
And a little something about yourself.
Yeah. My name is Joey Wander. I am actually not among the youth. I'm 34, but I work for Outside the Frame as the mentorship and social services liaison.
And we're going to tell everybody about Outside the Frame coming up in just a minute, but all of you are involved with that project, which is very interesting, and we have some great things that we're going to share with our audience that you have done and are doing. Arrow, tell us about you.
I'm Arrow Novator. I use she, her pronouns. I am OTF peer mentor, so I help Joey with all of the projects and stuff that we're doing. And yeah, I used to be a youth, now I work there. So
great,
cool.
Wonderful. Glad to have you with us.
Yeah.
Rain.
Hi, my name's Rain. I actually started at OTF for an internship for my school. At first I wasn't aware that it was originally for homeless youth, but after I found that out, it was just a really great fit for me, and it was great to share my experience with others.
Well, we're glad that you're with us today. Rose.
My name is Rose. I joined OTF in November, and I just got done writing, directing, and starring in my first short film that will be released in about 2 weeks.
And Zick?
Yeah.
I got it right.
I'm Zick. I go by they, them pronouns. I was involved in the last intensive for OTF, which is kind of just like a little, we have a short time frame to make a film.
And for those who haven't picked up on this, OTF stands for Outside the Frame, and it has a double meaning because you are inside the frame when you're shooting or if you're acting in the film. Yeah. But this is all about filmmaking, isn't it? Why don't we go to Avon? Introduce yourself.
I'm Avon. I use she, her, and that's pronouns. I'm about to turn 25, which means I'm aging out of the homeless youth continuum. Outside the Frame's been really amazing. I've been going for a few months. It does a lot to carry my mental health while going through bureaucratic loops trying to get housed.
Okay. Did I skip you, Vincent?
Yes.
I'm so sorry. Introduce yourself. Tell us a little about who you are.
My name is Vincent. I use they, that pronouns. I'm 21 years old, and I first discovered OTF back last November for one of the big intensives working with the Oregon Symphony and doing a collaborative song together.
We're going to play for you a clip of a song that they composed and performed with the Oregon Symphony Orchestra. It's beautiful.
Sweet, soft, and alone. Each body an alcove. Walking through these halls, I can see your own works of art. tore us apart. So peer into the painting. I just need to sleep, walking through these Portland streets. I just need to sleep, it's all better in a dream. I just need to sleep, need a blanket and some sheets. I just wanna sleep, but I need to move my feet. Woke up fresh, bitter and terrified. Streets littered with tin and blue eyes. It's getting colder and the lights are growing dim. I want more than this, don't know where to begin. But in the great wild, I am a survivor. Can you see me, or should I scream fire?
At the time, I didn't know where I would stay. Someone through a wasteland looking for an escape. More reliable is way to stay awake than the new grime to pass the time day to day. All I saw was blue in crumpled forms. Tim leave things withered and worn. Hustling on sidewalks, killing up at max sauce. We just want to sleep, not trouble from the cops.
But in the great wild, I am a survivor. Can you see me, or should I scream fire?
Vincent, you were involved in this show, right?
Yes,
Tell
so
us
it
about
was a collaboration of me and I believe 7 others. And basically, it was a 3-week-long intensive. The first week was just kind of doing icebreakers and offering our own creations that we've made over the years, kind of get a scope of what everybody had in store. Then the next 2 weeks were the building process of collaborating this song together. And it's basically like a hodgepodge of like all of these poems from the most like vulnerable parts of our lives. And what the result was just like the most unique collaborative experience that I have ever been a part of, and it's changed my life.
And many of the young people involved in this project are making films and doing music too, writing music.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Did any of you ever expect to become filmmakers?
Nope.
No,
Not at
that wasn't
all.
on your list of possibilities. And you're all doing that now, right? That's part of what the program is about. Tell me about that, Joey.
I think I started in 2010 when Outside the Frame, like before we got our name, when it was just a little group that happened weekly in the basement of Outside In. So I was, I'm a former houseless youth myself. And so I was a client at Outside In. I initially started because I just needed something to do, you know, somewhere to be, something to fill my time, and I really enjoyed it. I did a couple of intensive internships over the course of a few summers, and then I went on to be one of the first peer mentors here.
You all have had the experience of being homeless or houseless, whichever we say it these days. Anybody have a preference, homeless or houseless?
It's semantics. I sleep in a tent on the side of the highway. I don't care what you call it. I call it homeless.
You're living on the side of the highway here in Portland.
Mm-hmm.
And, okay, let's start with the whole idea of being homeless. Was that a choice that you made? Anybody want to talk to us about that?
I started off not as a choice. I got kicked out when I was 16 or 17 years old. And for the past 3 years, I've been like on and off, you know, couch surfing, living in my car. There was a point in my life last year that I actually chose to be homeless, and that's so I could, you know, afford food and other necessities instead of having a place to starve. Because these days you only have enough money to barely afford rent, and so it was much cheaper for me to live in my car and still survive.
And do you still stay in touch with family?
Oh yeah.
And
for
are
sure.
they in this area?
No, actually, they're in Idaho and Mexico. I moved here on my own.
I see. So, how did you plan, those of you who chose to be homeless, and what did the majority of you make the choice?
Depends on how you define the word choice.
Yeah.
So, I was living in Billings, Montana, when I came out as transgender, and it's not a very safe place to be trans. It's one of the more conservative cities in Montana. So things were getting very unsafe for me.
Vincent?
So a couple years ago, I moved to Oregon in hopes to start a new life and be out of abusive situations. Rent was really expensive. Everything was really expensive. And then around last year, I suffered from some drug issues. I was purchasing MDMA, or what I was told to be MDMA, and it was actually laced. And it caused me to kind of spiral and get into really abusive situations. And my last remaining option was to run away from everything and start over.
Did you have any idea where you would go when you ran away?
Shelter. So I almost took my own life last year, late October. And I almost went through with it, but I thought, I'm going to try one more time. I called the ambulance, and they told me they couldn't do anything for me. They couldn't get me treatment. They couldn't get me anywhere. I said I couldn't go back to where I came from. I was really way too scared. So I called every shelter, no beds, no beds, no beds. I finally called the last one, and they just asked my age, and it was a youth shelter, and that's called Porchlight Streetlight. And so I stayed there for a couple months until I got finally housed.
And now you're in a house someplace. Is it involved with this program?
Kind of. So I get my own bedroom and a shared living space, and I only get to have this housing for at least 1 year, up to 2 years, in hopes that I can get on my feet within those 2 years, but that's pretty unrealistic. So.
Well, how about the rest of you? Does everybody have adequate housing? And are you in shelters, or are you in your own apartment?
I'm currently in between. I'm staying, actually I'm right by Avon, and shelter. I go in between. Most nights I sleep out in the tent because shelter isn't a great place.
Any place that you do feel comfortable? Are there shelters here in Oregon that make you feel comfortable and you feel like you can be there for a while?
No.
No?
Well, genuinely, some of us honestly feel comfortable by ourselves. In a tent, living in my car, even if that means financially you're in a worse situation, if you prioritize your mental health, then that's more comfortable to us.
Are there supports that you feel you need that you're not getting, that you think that the government should provide?
I mean, I think that's sort of
Wow, that's a loaded
I
question.
think that's sort of the
It's a
whole
long
issue,
list,
isn't
huh?
it?
Yeah.
That's the whole issue.
That's sort of the whole issue, right? Like if you're talking about whether folks are choosing to be in this situation, like Avon was saying, that comes down to your definition of choice, right? Because when folks are in situations like this, if you are not already in a position where you have support and you have a safety net, then that choice sort of goes out the window, right? Unless you're willing to oftentimes sacrifice your safety or your ability to be the person that you are, then choice isn't really a factor. And I think definitely that the city could do more. But when it comes to what that looks like, that's sort of a difficult thing.
What about health care? You think you're getting the health care you need?
No.
The physical and mental health care? Anybody feel that they would like to have someone to talk to about the status or the
I know
nature of your...
that I currently do have a therapist through Outside In, and Outside In is great because they're one of the only places that really will take you in even if you don't have insurance or anything. They'll help you get on OHP. I was already on it when I left my parents' house, but I didn't have any information on my any of my medical information. So just being able to get that through Outside In is good, but healthcare could be a lot better in general for homeless people, for homeless youth, especially like trans homeless youth, because like like if you're on hormones or wanting to get surgery, it's really, really expensive because insurance normally doesn't cover it. And if you don't have insurance, then you're out of luck.
You said there was one point that you, since you've been homeless, that you actually considered taking your own life.
Oh,
I mean, it might be helpful for other kids who are listening to this to understand what you went through to be able to come out alive.
so I grew up a people pleaser. I grew up serving the people around me, and that didn't allow me to do any self-reflection or self-work or just take care of myself at all. And I was living with someone that I was really trying to help out, but her situation was so horrifically tough that it was a huge mental toll on me. I felt incredibly stuck. I felt like I had no worth unless I helped other people. And so if I couldn't help this person that I loved so much, then what's the good in living? Like, what's the point? So there's definitely like damage on my body that will like remain for years and years and tell me the story of that day. But
Well, we
I survived.
appreciate you sharing
So-
with us. I know that's not an easy thing to talk about, to bring that back to mind, but we appreciate it because could be other people out there who are experiencing the same thing. How do you think we can build a more supportive world for those who have had issues that make them leave their homes or decide that they just can't be there anymore?
No rent.
No rent. Well, that's going to be hard to do. But yes, if the shelters are out there, and if there are government's resources to make more shelters available, and some that are comfortable enough that you feel at home in. But any other ideas for building a more supportive world?
Shelters aren't the solution.
Okay.
Shelters aren't the solution. I mean, as these folks were saying, oftentimes shelters are not safe or comfortable spaces for people, and shelters are not sustainable, and shelters are not a home. The solution to any of this is to give people homes.
Well, you're right. I think it's a lot easier, I'm sure, to have a job if you have somewhere to go home to after work. We're going to take a break and we'll be right back. Stay with us.
As the non-profit sector try to treat me like a show pony. Each body. Despite the hard fact, my mother overdosed on me. Despite the hard fact, my little brother blew his dome open. Despite the hard fact that I still barely have a home, homie. But in the great wild, I am a survivor. Can you see me, or should I scream fire? In the great wild, I am a survivor. Can you see me, or should I scream fire?
Beautiful. That song, performed by Outside the Frame, a group, and some of their members are here with us today, performing with the Oregon Symphony Orchestra. We have a new member of our panel because we were missing a mic and she was waiting, and Rain gave you her, and we got your own badge. This is Elizabeth. Tell us about yourself.
Thank you so much, Rain. Well, my name is Elizabeth. I use she, her pronouns. I'm specifically homeless because I am a minor and I'm going to college full-time. But since I'm a minor, I cannot legally be on a lease, but I'm also close enough to being 18 that the process to be emancipated would take longer than it would actually be just to turn 18. So that's why I'm personally homeless. But yeah, I chose to be homeless because, you know, oftentimes we are born into a family and we do not get to choose what our family's like, who are the people we are born into. And some parents just aren't ready to be parents, and, you know, it's either sink or swim, and I chose to fly, you know?
Beautiful way of describing it, Elizabeth. Thank you for sharing that with us. Let's talk something a little bit about the group that you all are involved in. How did you find Outside the Frame?
I found out Outside the Frame. I was staying in a transitional home, and a therapist there actually introduced it to me. And, I was telling her about how I've always wanted to work in the film industry, more specifically acting and directing. I wanted to do it my whole life, but I wasn't sure where to start. I thought that you always, you had to live in LA. And she was like, no, I know this awesome program called Outside the Frame. They work with marginalized youth, and you should go check it out. You can make movies. So I was like, okay. So I went there. The first day I came in, met everyone. They were super cool. Joey put a camera in my hand and was like, go make a difference.
That was it.
Yeah.
You got your career, right?
Yeah, it's not a career yet, but it was my first step into the industry without paying a dime, without having to go to college.
Avon, how did you get involved with this group?
So I was at Pear, which is another homeless youth resource. It's like an art gallery, a creative space. One of the best programs out here besides Outside the Frame. And yeah, Joey was down there and had mentioned it, and I didn't go that time around, but later on, Vincent was getting ready to go to an intensive, or had applied to an intensive, and I applied as well.
Great.
It might take a while, but we always get you.
Elizabeth, you just told us how you joined. Are you thinking of becoming a filmmaker?
Well, I've been editing and directing since I was 9. I've been to countless amounts of camps with film studies. I've done a lot of film editing and directing, so once I found out about Outside the Frame, I was like, wait a second, I can do this again? So having the opportunity to be in touch with things that I used to do when I was, early teenager, it's really nice, and it may not be something I want to go into professionally, but yeah, it's something I definitely really enjoy.
But you chose Outside the Frame because it was a place that you could go and stay and live?
I loved filmmaking when I was little, and while I may be in med school now, I still want to be able to do things that I love. And as a homeless youth, I cannot exactly be in the programs that I was. I can't afford, the camps and film studies that I used to do when I was, housed.
Now, how did you get involved with Outside the Frame?
So-
Are you interested in filmmaking?
Yeah. So
okay.
I'm a mentor there, so I work there technically. I was a youth at one point, but graduated.
But you got involved because you liked filmmaking? Or
yeah,
you
I'm a photographer.
stayed because you learned to like it?
Yeah, so I got invited a bunch of times by Joey and Devin, the culture coordinator at Outside the Frame, with all these different pamphlets asking me to come join, come hang out, and I was like, I don't know if I want to. You've bothered me so many times with these little pamphlets.
I did.
And I finally came and I hung out a few times, and I had a great time. And then they opened a position to be someone to become a peer mentor, and I applied for it and I got it, which was really relieving, and it was really healing for me because I've always wanted to be a peer mentor for other houseless people, and I didn't really have that when I was homeless, and I just wanted to be that person.
So it's a mentoring side of it that you like more than the filmmaking.
Yeah,
but you're a photographer.
Yeah, so I
you
can
always
bring some of my
find
creative
work.
abilities for everyone.
What are you hoping for the future? I'd like to hear from all of you. What are the things that you're hoping will happen to our world, to your city, to the state?
I'm hoping that more people are get educated on stuff, because especially mental illness and disabilities within the homeless community, because there's a lot of people, most homeless people, I think, are have some type of mental illness. Obviously it looks different on everyone.
I think that people have a lot of preconceived notions about houselessness and why folks end up in this situation, right? Something that I often say that I think not a lot of people realize is that houselessness is a state of circumstance and not a state of being, right? And because of that, there's all sorts of reasons why folks end up out here. And people live different lives, have different experiences, have different struggles outside of the fact that our society is not supporting them. And the places that we live and the systems that exist are not designed to be supportive of everyone. They're designed to be supportive of people who who have an existing safety net and have existing supports.
How many of you have had substance abuse issues? How many of you think that most people who are homeless have substance abuse issues?
That's another myth.
I was going to ask you that.
I would very much like to add that I have never had a history with drugs at all, but I feel like a lot of the time I personally never dabbled with drugs. I still don't really dabble with drugs, but I did notice that the first time I tried a cigarette was when I was homeless, and I feel like a lot of times drugs isn't the cause of homelessness, but I feel like at that point drugs do happen when you're in a homeless community. But it's really sad because I've personally found that while I may be in this community where people are overdosing and I have to wake up to a siren every night, it's still a safer situation than I was at home, and that's a really hard thing to come to terms with, the fact that being on the street is more safe than in your parents' house.
And we really appreciate everything that you've told us today. And all of you, thank you
These
so
folks
much
have the stuff to say.
for being with us. It's been very, very interesting, and I think it's a conversation that most of us have never had an opportunity to have with people who've had the experiences that you have had out on the street and getting along. And thank you so much for being willing to talk to us about these things. Okay, thank you. Our panel has given us key insights into homelessness from the invaluable vantage point of having lived the experience. They know what it's like out there on the street. We appreciate the fact that you brought your stories to us and look forward to running into you again. I hope it'll be sometime soon.